The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
From the Holy Gospel according to Saint Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus took Peter, James, and his brother John and led them up a high mountain by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. His face shined like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. And behold, Moses and Elijah appeared to them, conversing with him. Then Peter said to Jesus in reply, Lord, it is good that we are here. If you wish, I will make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud cast a shadow over them. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell prostrate and were very much afraid. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, Rise, do not be afraid. And when the disciples raised their eyes, they saw no one else but Jesus alone. As they were coming down from the mountain, Jesus charged them, Do not tell the vision to anyone until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to Lord Jesus Christ. Please all be seated.
When we are afraid, when we are in trouble, when we are confused, when we are filled with doubt, to whom do we listen? Whose voice will capture our attention? Today we celebrate the feast of the Transfiguration of Jesus, and the Gospel reading tells us that Jesus accompanied 3 of his disciples, namely Peter, James, and John, and led them up a high mountain where he was transfigured before them. He revealed to them the great mystery of his passion, death, and resurrection, and where the voice of the Father was heard, saying, This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. As they stood on that sacred mountain, the disciples were actually filled with awe and confusion. Why? Because they left everything to follow Jesus. They saw, they witnessed the miracles he performed, they listened to his teaching, and they were convinced. They believed that Jesus was the Christ. He is the promised Messiah. But then, Jesus began to tell them, especially in the verses prior to this gospel passage, Jesus told them that his journey to Jerusalem, his path, would end in his suffering and death. That in Jerusalem, there he will be arrested, he will be captured, he will be persecuted, he will be tortured, he would be crucified, he will die. Although he made mention of rising to life again on the 3rd day, but the disciples' attention focused so much on his suffering and death. And these are the things that the disciples could not comprehend. They could not understand why Jesus, the Christ, the Messiah, had to suffer and die. And their hopes, their expectations were shattered, and fear began to creep into their hearts. In the midst of this, of their bewilderment, confusion, and doubt, the voice of the Father from the cloud, from the heavens, was heard, saying, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." That these words of the Father held a profound message to the disciples, one that is equally relevant for all of us today. That God the Father is directing their attention away from their preconceived notions and redirecting it towards Jesus, his beloved Son. And in these few words, listen to him. The disciples were being urged to listen, to hear, to truly hear the words that Jesus spoke. In these words, the disciples were being invited to surrender their own understanding, their own desire, and embrace the wisdom and guidance that Jesus gave, that Jesus offered. And the command of the Father was a reminder that Jesus was not just a teacher or prophet, but he is the very Son of God. The Word became flesh. And brothers and sisters, this call to listen is not limited to the disciples of that time, but extends to each one of us today. We live in a world filled with noise and distractions, where countless voices compete for our attention. We are bombarded with opinions, ideologies, and philosophies that promise fulfillment and happiness. Yet, amidst the disharmony, the voice of Jesus, the words of Jesus stand out as a beacon of truth, inviting us to listen attentively and follow him. Listening to Jesus means more than just hearing his words. It requires opening our hearts to his transformative message. It means allowing the teaching of Jesus shape our thoughts, our actions, and our decisions. It involves surrendering our will to his divine wisdom, even when it contradicts our desires and challenges our comfort zones. Moreover, listening to Jesus necessitates embracing the fullness of Christ's message, which include not only the promise of glory, but also the reality of suffering. Just as Jesus revealed to his disciples on the mountain, he calls us to take up our crosses and follow him. He invites us to embrace the difficulties and challenges of life, knowing that through our union with him, we will also share in his resurrection and eternal glory. Brothers and sisters, let us heed the words of the Father and truly listen to his beloved Son. And may we cultivate a spirit of openness and receptivity, allowing Jesus to transform our life from within. Let us not be afraid to follow Jesus along the path of selfless love, even when it seems difficult and incomprehensible. For in listening to Jesus, we discover the abundant life that the Lord promises to those who place their trust in him. In times of doubt, confusion, sadness, may we remember the Transfiguration on the mountain and the command of the Father saying, "This is my beloved Son, listen to him." And listening to Jesus, however, would never be complete without conforming our lives to His words. Let us love one another as He loved us. Let us extend compassion, forgiveness, and grace to others around us. And let our actions reflect the transformative power of the message of Jesus, making a positive impact on the lives of others.